Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore the journey of healing, growth, and self discovery. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have a truly inspiring guest with us, Nancy Mckay. Nancy is a certified Wayfinder life coach, a certified Equus Coach Master facilitator, and a She Recovers coach. Her personal journey through recovery from alcohol use disorder and surviving ovarian cancer has fueled her passion for empowering women to thrive through life's challenges. Nancy combines traditional coaching with the transformative power of Equus coaching, using horses to help women uncover limiting beliefs and behaviors that hold them back. She's a speaker, author, and founder of Amazing Outlook Coaching as well. And in today's discussion, we'll be diving into the topic of recovery, how it can transform lives, foster resilience, and also create a new sense of purpose for all of us. So, Nancy, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much. It's a delight to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Nancy, your personal journey, recovery journey started with alcohol use disorder and later surviving ovarian cancer. So, how did these life changing experiences shape your approach to recovery and coaching?
Well, both of those things, I just wasn't living authentically, and that sounds very cliche, but when I was drinking, I had a barrier between me and real life, really. I wasn't really living in the present. I kind of lived in the future, like what if things were different and that sort of thing. And then once I got sober, that changed. But then after I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and went through chemotherapy, then I realized that even though my diagnosis was not terminal by any stretch of the imagination, it still affected me deeply in that I felt like I was wasting my time doing work that really didn't help people and really didn't feed my soul. And so that's what spurred me on to learn how to become a life coach and then an Equus coach, because I had the experience of participating in some Equus coaching, and I realized how magical it was, and I just really needed to learn how to do that. And so those were the things that shifted for me and made me more aware of how I wanted to live my life going forward. And that's why I changed it. I was 61 years old when I started training to become a life coach. And, now I'm 67 and I've been in business for, a little over 5 years and actually 6. And, here we are. And I feel like I am helping people and I feel like I am making a difference. And it certainly is feeding my soul. And I just I feel like now I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Lovely, lovely. A very, very transformative and empowering journey, Nancy. And thank you so much for sharing this with all of our listeners. I think one of the most beautiful part of your practice is Equus Coaching. So, for our listeners, can you explain how working with horses enhances the recovery process of for your clients?
Sure. Well, working with horses is my favorite part of my job, and the reason why it's so effective, and especially for someone who is in the recovery process, is because the feedback that horses give us is incredible. They're very intuitive, and so what happens is they respond to the energy that we're putting out into the universe. And so the feedback that they give us is like a mirror image, right? They tell us by what they're doing how we're showing up in the world. And so it's effective because we can feel the feedback that they give us at a cellular level. We can really, it's a, I say over and over again that working with horses is magic, and it really is, because it's something that you really have to experience. It's difficult to explain, but it really is something that you feel. And when they connect with you, you can feel it in your body. And it's when our body responds to that kind of connection, then it expedites the process. So, I could have a virtual coaching with someone and it's effective, but if we were to work with a horse, it would speed up that process, and so it just is more effective, and it's more, it's deeper. It's just deeper, and it's a lot more efficient, so it's a lot more fun, to go and play with a horse and, really allow yourself to be vulnerable and understand that the information that the horse is giving you is directly related to the information that the energy that you're putting out into the world.
That is really, really very interesting and very positive to know. So, Nancy, you've been in recovery for over a decade now. What have been some of the most important lessons you have learned about healing and transformation along the way?
I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned is how important connection and community is in recovery. One of the things that is very predominant in addiction, no matter what kind of addiction you're struggling with, is a lot of it takes place when you're alone. You isolate. A lot of people isolate. And so that's when addiction can really grab hold, is if the addiction convinces you that what you're doing is shameful and that you need to hide, then it becomes a real solitary existence. You become very, very isolated. Now, in my experience, I was kind of a party girl. And so it was more social for me. I didn't isolate so much until I really started over drinking. And then I would separate myself from my husband or my friends who I was with, and separate myself because, they were kind of getting in my way. Right. And so so you start to isolate, and so the um, the remedy for that is connection and community. And
True.
I've just come back from co-facilitating a retreat in Texas for She Recovers, and the community that we all found there was significant and so special. It's just, and it's something that, you know, you can really depend on these people that you're going through this with, right? And so you know that you have people that are supporting you and that you can depend on and that you can reach out to when the going gets tough. And you know, it's a beautiful and incredible experience to have that. And I truly think that that's the biggest thing, is that, you know, I recommend that anyone that is going through any kind of recovery process, whether it's a physical recovery, you know, like cancer diagnosis or a chronic illness or an addiction, whatever it is, find your people and get involved with your community of people who are going through the same thing, because that's what's going to keep you sober, healthy, whatever it is. I just think it's so important.
That is absolutely true. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely. Recovery can often feel like a long, winding road, Nancy. So, how do you encourage and guide your clients when they face setbacks or challenges on their journey? They would be facing a moment where they just want to give up.
Yeah, it's common and it happens to everyone. And so that's one of the things that I try to share with them, is that what is happening when they feel like giving up happens to just about everybody, and that they're not in that boat by themselves, that everybody has gone through that. And what they can do is stop and breathe. It's amazing what a few deep breaths will do for you. And if you can get yourself grounded in the present moment and understand that right this moment, you're safe. You know, if you're not indulging in your addiction, then in this moment, you're safe. And the feeling that you have that makes you want to give up is going to pass. You know, our emotions can run through us, and unless we resist them, they will run through our system in about a minute and a half. You know, like a craving will hit, and if you breathe through it and get yourself grounded, then that craving will pass in about a minute and a half. But if you resist it and fight it, then it will persist. You know, that old saying, whatever you resist persists. It's true. And so, you know, the trick is to be in the present moment, understand that you're safe, and that you can get through this and come out on the other side of it. But you can't go around it. You kind of have to walk right through it, right? Martha Beck, who is the founder of the Wayfinder life coach training program that I went through, she refers to Dante's Inferno a lot in her training and in her philosophy. And it's, a matter of walking into the fire.
Yeah.
And walking through it to the other side rather than trying to skirt around it, because by skirting around it, you're always going to be facing it, whatever it is, right? But if you walk through it, if you meet that challenge head on and know that you are stronger than whatever it is that you're facing, then you can get through that and not capitulate to it, right? Not succumb to your addiction or the fear, that I can't do this anymore. What a lot of the things that I work with my clients on is thought process, right? And how our brains will lie to us. And so, we all have this lizard brain, this amygdala in our, that will tell us that we're not safe and that we need to do something to feel safe again. And a lot of the time, it's our addiction talking, and it's, you can't do this. You need me. You can't do it alone. You've got to have me, being, the drug or the drink or the shopping or the gambling or whatever, in order to feel better. And that's not true. Our brains will lie to us all day long. Our body, on the other hand, knows the truth. And so what I encourage my clients to do is to understand that when we feel like, when our brain says, you can't do this, or in reality, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, whatever. That's not true. And that thought gives us a feeling of defeat and desperation and fear and scarcity, right? And so then the actions that we take come from that place of fear and scarcity and desperation. And so, frequently the result is that we'll pick up the drink or the drug or whatever it is in order to calm that voice down, right? And that's what our addiction wants us to do, is to say, you're right, I can't do it, so I'll just have another drink, right? Instead of saying, my question is, how would you rather feel than desperate, right? And chances are people want to feel calm or have some clarity in their mind. And so then the question is, what thought helps you get there? What thought gives you a sense of peace? And frequently that thought is, I can do this. I am worth staying sober for. And I am not going to drink over XYZ, right? And so then that gives them a sense of peace as well as empowerment. And they know, and now it's, a minute or two later, and they've gotten through the craving and they don't need to have a drink anymore, right? Because they've changed their mindset and they're in the present moment. I'm safe. I can do this. I can get to the other side of this feeling that I need to have a drink. I can get through this right now. And one thing that will help me get there is telling myself how strong I am.
Yeah.
And by the time you go through that process, the craving has passed through you.
Wow. Wow. That's really, really profound. Um, Nancy, um, as a She Recovers coach, you
Mhm.
work specifically with women. What are some unique challenges that women face in recovery, and how do you help them navigate these difficulties?
I think the common denominator for women, especially in recovery, is the feeling of shame.
Yeah.
Um, they're a lot of the women in She Recovers are mothers,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of shame involved there that
Yes.
that they are letting their children down.
Yeah.
They're letting their a lot of the women are in that sandwich generation, so they've got
Mm.
children and they've got parents who are getting older and who need them, and so they feel like they're full of shame because they're letting people down, and they're not thinking so much about letting themselves down, but it's it and if their drinking is keeping them isolated, like we were talking about a little earlier,
Yeah.
then that's even more prevalent. And it's the stigma that is attached to alcohol use disorder. And I'm not crazy about labels, and so
Mhm.
alcoholism and alcoholic are terms that I don't care to use much anymore. And so, but that stigma is there, and that's what causes the shame, is that you don't want to be considered someone who is an alcoholic, because lots of people still have this
Mm.
preconceived picture in their head of what an alcoholic is.
Like.
And that's what kept me drunk for a long time. Was I didn't want to be one of those people who
Mhm.
you know are called alcoholic. I couldn't do it, and that kept me drunk for a long time. So the shame that's involved in the stigma keeps people, and especially women, in their addiction because they don't want to admit that there's a problem, and it's killing them. It's absolutely killing them. And so when we can eliminate the shame and talk about the courage instead of shame,
Mhm.
then that changes the story, that changes the narrative of addressing what's keeping you active in that addiction. And that's the kicker, is getting to the root cause of it, because you know um there's a lot of reasons why women drink, uh and a lot of those reasons come from shame, difficult, childhood trauma, and relationship trauma, and general trauma, just things that have happened in our past that are difficult to face. And so we drink in order to cope with it. And, that happened to me. And I think it probably happens to 99.9% of the women out there that have an a drinking problem. And so, you know, understanding that there should be no shame at all in whatever brought you to think that alcohol is the solution.
Mhm.
Um, because alcohol is kind of a symptom. It's the trauma that you're trying to handle
Yes.
with alcohol that
Yeah.
is the problem, and that's usually what's causing the shame. And so it's a very complicated um it can be complicated. What all is underlying everything. It's, we talk about, kind of peeling back the layers like an onion, right? And getting to what's at the heart of the addiction. And, sometimes that takes time, and it takes a whole lot of compassion. And, you know, the bottom line is we don't have to drink in order to live our lives. We don't have to do that to ourselves anymore. And there's a better way to live. And you know, I'm all about it, and I love, sharing my story like this. I love recovering out loud. This is part of my recovery process right here.
Yeah.
This helps me stay sober, is telling you and your listeners my story and giving them some encouragement and hopefully some inspiration that they can get to the other side of it too.
Absolutely true. Lovely. That's really lovely, Nancy. And you have also shared your story, your journey in multiple international best-selling books. So, how has telling your story of recovery influenced both your personal healing and your ability to help others?
Well, I think one of the things is that I'm not afraid to recover out loud. I'm not afraid to share my story.
Yeah.
I used to be, when I first got sober, I didn't want, when I met people, I didn't want them to know that I was in recovery, for God's sake. I didn't want them to know that I had to stop drinking because I couldn't drink safely anymore. I didn't want them to know that. And it probably wasn't until after I went through cancer that fell away. It was, for me, it was kind of an awakening of sorts. And because it was like I finally accepted myself.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the light bulb just kind of went on for me right now. It's like, this is me. And if you don't like that, that's fine, but I don't have to change how I present myself to make you feel better. Right. So for me, I'm really proud of what I've gone through and have come out on the other side. I'm proud of the fact that I stopped drinking 15 and a half years ago. I'm really proud of that. And I'm grateful that I survived cancer. I'm very grateful. And so the thing that talking about my story and writing about my story, it's for me, it's part of the process. And it's for me, it's telling whoever wants to listen, and there may not be that many people who want to listen, but telling people who want to listen that they can do this too. If I can do it, you can do it. And I often say that I have I always forget this word. Isn't that silly? There it goes again. It's gone. But basically, the determination of a gnat. It's not determination. It's another word. Gosh. Pardon me?
Willpower.
Yes, that's it. I knew it started with a W. Thank you. The willpower of a gnat. I mean, I'm determined and I'm persistent and I'm resilient as hell, but willpower is not one of my strong suits. And so, if I can do this, anybody can do this. And I'm here to support anybody that needs some help. I just, it's a better way of life. And anybody that has the desire can do this too.
Lovely.
And I'm not sure if I answered your question.
You definitely did that. I think it's an honest and deep from your heart answer to this question, and I think it resonated with. I'm very confident with all of our listeners today, because if even a one person can get inspiration, get that willpower to make some difference in their lives, and get inspired by you, I think it's completely justified.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Nancy, if our listeners want to connect with you, explore about Equus Coaching, and also about She Recovers, and also, connect with you to explore your personal journey and get some inspiration, how they can do that.
The best way is to visit my website, which is www.amazingoutlookcoaching.com. And connect with me there, and I would love to visit with anyone who's interested in learning more about my coaching or workshops, retreats, all the things. So
great. We'll have all the details mentioned in show notes.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing your incredible, empowering story and the insights about recovery with all of us today, and your journey, the process of recovery, which you are navigating through resilience and empowerment. It's a true inspiration for all of us, especially all the women out there. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to be here. And I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
And listeners, for any one of you who's listening to this conversation, and if you want to learn more about Nancy's work, explore Equus Coaching, or explore or connect with her to get inspiration from her journey, be sure to check out the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And thank you to all for tuning into the Mindful Living podcast. And if today's conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and let us know how we are doing. Leave us a review. Until next time, stay mindful, stay present, and continue walking the path of healing and transformation. Thank you.